KL Publications presents We Remember You, the story of Vanessa Guillen. Vanessa Guillen was more than just a soldier. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend with dreams of serving her country honorably. Born and raised in Houston, Texas, to Mexican immigrant parents, Vanessa was known for her determination, her work ethic, and devotion to her family. She was a rising star in the military, but the tragic end to her life exposed deep flaws within the very institution she had dedicated her life to, an institution where she should have felt protected, not preyed upon. Vanessa Guillen's story is one of heartbreak and injustice, but also of resilience and change. Her death shocked the nation, leading to a movement that called for accountability, reform, and the protection of those serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. Through the tragedy of her death, Vanessa had become a symbol of courage, perseverance, and the urgent need for justice. A dream deferred. Vanessa enlisted in the U.S. Army in 2018, driven by a desire to serve and provide for her family. Stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, Vanessa's career seemed promising, but her time in the military became marked by fear and harassment. She confided in her family that she had been sexually harassed on the base but feared retaliation if she reported it. Like so many others before her, Vanessa was caught in a toxic environment where victims of harassment were often silenced, their complaints buried beneath the weight of military bureaucracy. On April 22, 2020, Vanessa disappeared from Fort Hood. The 20-year-old soldier was last seen in a parking lot near her unit's arms room, where she worked. Her sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through her family, who immediately knew something was terribly wrong. Vanessa had spoken to her mother, Gloria Guillen, just hours before, and everything seemed normal. Yet when her family reached out to Fort Hood for answers, they were met with vague responses, delays, and confusion. As days turned into weeks, the military handlings of Vanessa's disappearance began to draw national attention. Her family, led by her determined mother and sister, Mariah Guillen, refused to accept the military's evasiveness. They launched their own campaign for answers, using social media and news outlets to raise awareness about Vanessa's disappearance. The hashtag Find Vanessa Guillen quickly gained traction, with thousands of supporters demanding actions and transparency from the Army. The investigation unfolds. It wasn't until June 2020, 2 months after Vanessa's disappearance, that human remains were discovered near the Leon River, about 20 miles from Fort Hood. On July 3, 2020, the Army confirmed that the remains were indeed those of Vanessa Guillen. The horror of her final moments came to light in the subsequent investigation. Specialist Aaron Robinson, a fellow soldier, was identified as Vanessa's killer. On the day she went missing, Robinson bludgeoned Vanessa to death in his arms room where they both worked, then disposed of her body with the help of his girlfriend, Cecily Aguilar. According to reports, Robinson had harassed Vanessa and likely feared she would report his inappropriate behavior. He murdered her to silence her, showing just how deeply the culture of fear and retaliation had taken root within the military. Robinson later died by suicide as investigators closed in on him, robbing Vanessa's family of their chance for him to be held accountable in court of law. The gruesome details of Vanessa's murder and the Army's delayed responses outraged the public. Her family, devastated but resolute, turned their grief into action. They began a campaign for justice, not only for Vanessa, but for the countless others who had experienced sexual harassment and assault in the military, but were too afraid to speak out. The Vanessa Guillen Act. Vanessa's death ignited a national conversation about the military's handling of sexual harassment and assault cases. It became clear that the system in place was failing to protect soldiers, particularly women, from abuse. Victims who reported harassment were often met with indifference, retaliation, or further mistreatment. Vanessa's family, along with supporters, demanded systematic change, and their cries for reform reached the halls of Congress. In 2020, the Am Vanessa Guillen bill was introduced. The legislation aimed to overhaul how the military handles sexual harassment and assault cases, removing the authority to investigate such complaints from the chain of command. This was a crucial point. Under the existing system, victims had to report harassment to their superiors, who were often friends or colleagues of the accused, leading to bias and cover-ups. The bill gained bipartisan support, driven by the tireless advocacy of Vanessa's family and the widespread outrage sparked by her death. On December 8, 2021, the bill was incorporated into the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, officially known as the Vanessa Guillen Military Justice Improvement and Increasing Prevention Act. It marked a significant step forward in military justice reform. The act includes provisions to move the prosecution of serious crimes, including sexual assault, outside of the chain of command to independent military prosecutors, establish a special process for handling harassment complaints, ensuring they are investigated by neutral parties, providing greater protection and support for victims of sexual harassment and assault within the military. This legislation is a testament to the enduring legacy of Vanessa Guillen, a young woman whose life was tragically cut short, but whose story inspired change for the future. The aftermath and cultural shift. The passage of the Vanessa Guillen Act represents a critical shift in military culture. But it is only the beginning. Vanessa's case illuminated the persuasive culture of silence, fear, and retaliation that exists within the armed forces, particularly when it comes to sexual harassment and assault. Her story has encouraged other survivors to come forward and share their experiences, breaking the cycle of silence that has protected abusers for far too long. Vanessa's family continues to advocate for full accountability, both for her death and for the broader systematic changes needed within the military. While the passage of the act is a major victory, it cannot undo the immense loss they have suffered. The pain of Vanessa's death still reverberates through her family and community, a reminder of the cost of inaction and negligence. A legacy of courage. Vanessa Guillen's story is one of unimaginable tragedy, but it also is a story of courage. It is the courage of a family who refused to stay silent in the face of injustice. It is the courage of survivors who have come forward, emboldened by Vanessa's story, to demand justice for themselves and others. It is the courage of young women who wanted to serve their country but instead became a symbol of the fight to protect those who protect us. As the reforms inspired by Vanessa's story continue to unfold, her legacy serves as a constant reminder that we must hold our institutions accountable, that every voice deserves to be heard, and that silence is never the answer when justice is at stake. The nation remembers Vanessa Guillen not only for the tragedy of her death, but for the changes her memory has inspired. She will forever be a symbol of resilience, and through her, the fight for justice continues. We remember you, Vanessa Guillen. Your voice was silenced, but your legacy will echo through the halls of justice for years to come. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe.